Before proceeding with the agenda, I just ask that we take a moment of silence to remember the casualties and the victims of the catastrophe at Fort Hood, Texas. Thank you. We'll start with the transmitting of Treasury warrants 18, 18A, 19, and 19A. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
I'll second.
Made and seconded. All in favor? It's unanimous. We have no minutes to approve this evening, and we do have a 7 o'clock appointment scheduled with Mr. Joseph Gleason of Verizon New England. Why don't we move to communications, and then we'll give Mr. Gleason a few more minutes to arrive.
Mr. Chairman, I want to report on the letter that we've received from Gerard Perry, the Director of Accounts for the Department of Revenue, regarding the notification of free cash approval for the town of Wilmington. Based upon the unaudited balance sheet that has been submitted, he is certifying that the amount of available funds or free cash as of July 1, 2009 for the town of Wilmington through its general fund is $4,821,738. This is the certification that has come from the Department of Revenue. Last year's certification was 4775044, and so a quick mathematical exercise will tell you that free cash actually increased despite the incredibly difficult year that most communities were facing, including our own. It increased by $46,694. And when you look at that number in conjunction with the entire operating budget of about $77.5 million, we're still in a very favorable position in terms of our reserve to operating budget ratio at about 6.25%. And that takes into consideration the entire operating budget, including the capital accounts, MWRA and state statutory charges, etc. So I'm pleased to report those numbers to the board.
I think that's about as good a news as we could have expected to hear this year, given everything that's going on.
And we do have other reserves, certainly in the water fund, in our health insurance accounts, for example, and capital stabilization fund. But this is the primary source of a reserve for the town. We have a memorandum that we received from the Massachusetts Municipal Association that was written by the Executive Director, Jeff Beckwith, talking about the governor's budget plan that was announced at the end of last month that, among other things, trimmed about $53 million from local program accounts. He did make the announcement that mid-year state budget cuts were not going to touch local aid. By that, he certainly was referring to Chapter 70 education aid and the major general municipal aid account. But the budget plan does cut this $53 million from other municipal and education accounts, including some that will affect the town of Wilmington, for example, the regional school transportation, which would affect the Shawshene Tech, and the special education circuit breaker, charter school reimbursements, and police incentive pay program, which is the Quinn bill. He also cut payments in lieu of taxes, but that does not affect the town of Wilmington. And so the governor did use 9C powers for that purpose, and we have received at least a preliminary cherry sheet that shows the effect of those cuts. I can tell you that based upon what we received in fiscal year 09 compared to what we will ultimately receive if there are no more cuts in this current fiscal year 10, we're talking about $1 million reduction in local aid for the town of Wilmington. The governor indicated that he would include language in a supplemental budget bill to create a study to look at alternative programs for the Quinn bill, and also to look at other legislation such as how to authorize cities and towns to implement red light camera systems. But at this point, we're just bracing ourselves and hoping that there won't be any additional cuts. The governor's been given 9C authority, and although he's indicated at this point there's no plan to touch anything in local aid, if the revenue figures don't pan out the way the state hopes they will between now and the end of the fiscal year, then some of those local aid accounts that haven't been touched could also be in jeopardy. At this point, I would indicate that, again, $1 million less than last year, but no change where we are right now to the two major accounts, unrestricted local aid and Chapter 70 funding.
Mike, if we could, the 5 key municipal reforms that the MMA continues to lobby for that are mentioned at the end of this, do you think at some point in the near future you could give some feedback to the board as to how each one of those 5 recommendations would specifically affect
Sure.
the town?
Can do that.
And then we can either get on board with them or not. Thank you.
Can I ask briefly what a red light camera system is? It refers to it, and you just referred to it as well, and I'm not sure what they're specifically referring to.
It's a system that would allow cities and towns to put up a camera that would essentially catch anybody who is going through a red light, even though there would not necessarily be police presence. It's something that, we haven't studied. I really haven't talked to the police chief about it. If it's intended to be a way to enhance municipal revenue, then I believe there are better ways to do that. But as I understand it, that's part of it, but the main thrust is public safety, so that if somebody were going through a red light, at 2 o'clock in the morning, or at any time for that matter, and they would end up displaying a picture back to the police department, and they would recognize the plate and then send out a ticket.
Thank you.
Do I continue?
Please.
Okay. I want to give notice, and this has already appeared in a legal ad on November 4th and will again this coming week. That's a public hearing to provide an open forum for the discussion of local property tax policy with reference to classification for fiscal year 2010 taxation purposes will be held at the Town Hall on Monday, November 23rd at 7:15 p.m. And obviously that will be held in conjunction with the Board of Selectmen's meeting. Any interested taxpayer may present their views on the classification policy at that time at the hearing itself, or in writing to the town manager's office up until 4:30 p.m. on that date. Again, that date is November 23rd. And as you know, gentlemen, Mr. Moynihan will be in to review where we are with regard to a local property tax policy, which will ultimately, based upon your vote, allow us to establish a tax rate going forward. The board has correspondence from the Office of the Attorney General regarding the Wilmington Annual Town Meeting of May 2nd, 2009, and the specific warrant articles. There were 5 of them that they had to review, Articles 25, 27, 28, 34, and 35. Article 25 was the excavation and trench safety law, in which they reviewed for us and did make certain suggestions to the town. We sent a supplemental letter, and then they indicated that they approved all of the amendments that were adopted under that particular article. Article 27 was the bylaw on marijuana, which you will remember that came up at the town meeting, which was given approval. Article 28 was the comprehensive stormwater management bylaw, again, which was given approval by the Attorney General's office. And Article 34 and 35 were petitioned articles for rezonings, general business on Lowell Street and West Street area. And they also were given the approval by the Attorney General's office. I provided this information to Town Council for his review so he can advise us if the town needs to take any supplementary action, particularly with regard to some of the comments that the Attorney General made initially on Article 25. It's my reading that we're okay, but we are going to have Town Council review.
All right, why don't we revert to our appointment items. First of all, with respect to our 7 o'clock agenda item, Joseph N. Gleason, Verizon New England, Inc., and it's regarding a request of Verizon New England, Inc. and Reading Municipal Light Department to remove 5 poles and place 3 poles on Lowell Street. Perhaps, given Mr. Gleason's track record of being here and being here punctually, we might simply continue the hearing. Before doing that, I just want to make sure that nobody in the audience has any questions or comments. In the event we continue that. Seeing none, what's the board's pleasure on that?
May I just
Yes.
make a note that this is not a hearing, just per se. I believe, is that correct, Doug? There's no actual hearing required, but the board still has to take this action. And I would agree with what you're suggesting, but therefore we don't have to, give a specific time or anything else. It's up to you.
And actually, I guess maybe the motion then would be to simply table it. Any questions, comments, or a motion on that?
I make a motion that we table it until next meeting.
Second.
Made and seconded. Anything further? All in favor? It's unanimous.
Thank you.
Our 7:05 appointment scheduled with firefighter Brian Anderson. It's regarding Wilmington Firefighters Toys for Wilmington Children program. I do understand that Mr. Anderson, due to a scheduling conflict, couldn't be here this evening, even though we had put that on the agenda. And it's also my understanding that Mr. Anderson intends to join us on the night of the 23rd at our next meeting. So we'll look forward to hearing from Mr. Anderson that night. Which brings us to our 7:15 appointment with Teresa Marciello, Elderly Services Director. And it's regarding the availability of fuel assistance programs and a discussion of services provided through Minuteman Senior Services. Good evening.
Good evening. Thank you for letting me speak tonight.
Our pleasure. Thanks for being here.
I thought I would speak a bit about the fuel assistance program, just as a update as to things that are happening. The program has started. That's through Community Teamworks. There's, for each town, you're designated to a certain area to report to do applications. For our applications, people 60 and over, they do it through our office and through myself, and also Stacy King, my town clerk. And then in turn, anyone under the age of 60 is referred to the Veterans Agent in Billerica, which I do have the number and all the information for if anyone needs to be giving us a call. As part of the fuel assistance program, it's based on income, their yearly gross income. For one person, for example, it's $21,126. For 2 people, it's $38,087, and for 3, it's $47,049. What we ask when people come to their come to the appointment, they have to have their monthly income, whether it be Social Security, pension, IRA. They also have to bring their checking account statement, electric bill for proof of address, but they also bring now their mortgage. The fact if they still have a mortgage and if they're paying, if money is going out for that. It's more for a statistical purpose for that. They're trying to do some research for the federal government for that. when someone applies for fuel assistance, when they renew, they get the applications in August. So we've had people actually coming to the office since August. So from August to this point, we've had around 65 people in the office already for fuel assistance. I would say 5% of that is new people, because the actual program starts on November 1st. So we actually went, we meaning Stacy King and I, went for a training, just a renewal training. And so the program itself actually starts on November 1st. Just to let people know that are also watching, that several people have applied. People are getting concerned because nothing is coming to them in the mail that they've been approved. But in all realms, they actually have been, several of them have been approved. It's just getting the information out to people they've had a hard time with, Community Teamworks, due to the fact of the overload of the system. So people can call me, I just take some information down, I go into the Teamwork system, and I can get their approval. And in fact, 5 people today called. I was happy to give them all good news, they all were approved. And actually can give the exact amount. In turn, the money does not go to that one person. The money then is, say for example, if it's oil and they are doing, they have Hafner's as their oil company. If they're approved for $500, they call Hafner saying, I need oil. They get, say, $300 worth of oil put in their tank, and in turn, the oil company, Hafner's, communicates with Community Teamwork. So there's no money coming to the elder. It's the oil company and Community Teamworks working together. People sometimes think it's just oil. It is not. It's oil, propane, coal, wood, anything to electricity to heat the home. The program does run all the way through April of '09, so we're able to process an application at any time before that. So what I do also, I take an opportunity, sometimes these applications take a while in meeting with people, because I take an opportunity to talk to them about a circuit breaker. That's a property tax abatement type thing for senior citizens through only the state of Massachusetts. So it's really important. What they do is they take your water bill, your property tax, and your income. It's a formula they put together to see if people 65 or over can get money back from paying their property tax. Quite a few people, still to this date, it's been in process and established for 6 years, and there's still people out there who are not taking advantage of this bonus. They can get anywhere from like $850, and it can be retroactive. So I take an opportunity to talk to them about that, about their insurance. There's been so many changes for insurance, to talk to them about that, especially about prescriptions. Because of the changes with the state, the Prescription Advantage program that Massachusetts has, there has been several changes as in the income guidelines, so it is hurting several people. So letting them know some alternatives that they can do. And again, reminding them of the services that the department itself offers. You know, reminding them about transportation, home-delivered meals, and also the programs that we provide at the center. As part of the fuel assistance program, there are 2 other programs that are available. One is you can go through Judy Baggs, the town nurse, and that's the Good Neighborhood Fund. And that actually this year is not starting till January 1st. You have to apply for fuel assistance first. If you get denied, then in turn that is a backup system, because that income level is a bit higher. So they can do that and work with Judy. Judy and I work very closely, and I do quite a few. Was the Joe Kennedy program. That starts in December, but they're starting to really take calls, and they're saying to wait till mid-December. That information is you have to fill out it's one-page application. They ask to please have nobody send any documentation of their income or social security numbers or anything like that, because it's just too much paperwork and they're afraid of it getting into the wrong hands, that they just need that one application page. That's for one fill-up. That's also for one-time service only. Along with the Good Neighborhood, that's a $300 program. So those are the types of programs that people can go for. They can feel free to give me a call. and our department will most definitely help them in any way possible or refer them again to the Bill Ricca Veterans Agent. So it's kind of a summary as to our fuel assistance.
Right at the beginning, I apologize, I'm writing something down. What is the distinction between the programs that they should contact you and the threshold for when you would refer them to Bill Ricca?
Actually, the number one program they should apply to, no matter what, is the Community Teamworks Program, which is the federal government fuel assistance program. If they get accepted, that's great, they get settled. But if they're not, because they applied for that and there's proof that they've applied and that they're not eligible, then they can go after these other programs, especially the Good Neighborhood Fund. They have to show that they applied for that through community teamwork. For Joe Kennedy, you don't have to prove that. You don't have to say that. You went at this time, I should say, for the community teamwork program. But last year they did, last year was a very difficult winter. The oil prices and things did go down dramatically after a while, thank goodness. But some resources did dry up for Joe Kennedy.
So the bottom line for people to try and take from tonight is that your office should be the number one call.
Exactly.
When you have questions about fuel assistance.
Exactly. And not to hesitate and not to think, oh, it's best to find out. The worst thing someone can say is no. And if there is a no, there's always other alternatives. Okay,
and then by way of confidentiality, obviously, just to assure people that might be watching, if they call you, that's a confidential.
Exactly. And all income information and everything that they share is completely confidential. There's only two people, myself and Stacy, my town clerk, that touch any of that paperwork.
Okay. Questions or comments from the board?
Just a quick comment. It's nice to see during these tough, difficult times that there is avenues for folks to take advantage of this. And, times are tough with everybody, and it's nice to see that you're involved and at least bringing people through the maze on how to do that. So, I just hope that everyone's capable and able to get some type of help that they need. It's going to be a tough year or two or more.
Well, already we're only on, November 9th, and I've seen quite a few new faces come through the door this year. So I think it's just, like you say, a sign of the times.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think, Terry, you've done a wonderful job. Obviously, what you do over there with this fuel system, this fuel program is really needed. Just to let people know, you don't have to be a veteran to go to the Veterans Office in Bill Ricca. That's 60 and under.
Right.
You go to Bill Ricca, any resident. That's just where CTI, that's their office for fuel assistance, to go over there. And you don't have to be a veteran. And if there's, and you kind of answered the next question, there's obviously money, the $500 and $300 you were offering, probably not even a full tank of oil, depending on the price. A lot of these programs, the secondary programs, they have to have applied for CTI and exhausted all those funds. Correct? And that's where they can go to you or Bill Ricca.
Not to necessarily exhaust the funds, just to show that they've gone through the appropriate, they're going through the appropriate programs. In other words, they're not going to Good Neighborhood Fund and come to find out they should have gone to Teamworks because they're income eligible for that, and they're kind of like double dipping. So that's kind of just to watch, making sure that everyone's going through the proper systems.
Very good.
Mr. Chairman, I'm sorry, you mentioned, you specifically said Heffner's, I know, as an example, but are there oil companies that are participants in the program? I should say, are there utility companies, oil, gas,
Yes.
propane, et cetera?
Yes.
Are those so there potentially are companies that people may be using today that they may have to shift or change their relationship?
Well, it's very rare. There is quite a listing of let's say oil companies right now that are part of the program. If I come up with an oil company that I'm not aware of, there is a listing that I could look at. If for some reason that they are not, they meaning the client, is not a part of that oil program, for that short period of time, we change them over to another oil company just to make sure that they can use a service. And that other oil company is very understanding because they don't offer it.
Understood.
And we haven't had a problem with any transfer.
Okay, great. Thanks for what you're doing.
Terry, is there any agencies that the seniors could call for, to have their house monitored for like any heat loss?
I'm sorry, Ray, yes.
So this way, if there's any, windows or And how would that program work? Would they have to pay, like, if they find, like, they got a 40% loss of heat, through the windows, overhangs like that, would they be, is there any kind of a program that they could apply for?
Yes, there is. Actually, thank you very much. You kind of segued into a piece that I forgot. Part of the community teamwork program is they do have a weatherization. It's a free, at the time that they apply, there is a piece on the application asking people if they need weatherization for their home. That can include, insulation in their attic, their basement, the side blown-in insulation. Sometimes they've even done windows. The thought of the program is the reason for community teamwork or the federal government thinking they're not only saving the program money, they're also saving the elder money, so everyone kind of saves all around. And the people that I know within the town that have had this service have been extremely pleased, have been very, very pleased, so that they do have that option, and it's all free.
Is there like a follow-up, like a bulletin board down the center that, as we just discussed this, that they could be posted, that they could apply for these programs on the website? Do we have anything like that?
Actually, what we have done is our newsletter, Town Topics, Town Crier, and the Wilmington Advocate. So I really haven't posted it in that type of thing as into the bulletin board, just because sometimes it's a little, might be too much information, but we have used those other resources as making sure the word gets out. Actually, besides our newsletter, the Town Topics has been a major influence on the program, just because it goes out to the entire town, and it also gets the adult child saying, I think my parents are eligible, but they're a little apprehensive. Do you think you could give them a call? And that's kind of opened the door for me that way.
I'd just like to add that you do get high praise from the seniors and even, families of the elderly saying, what you do for the town, the assistance to their mothers and fathers and seniors. I'd just like you to know that, and, thank you again, because even though I'm out there also, that your name is mentioned quite a bit, and I've never heard a bad thing, that you're a very asset to that program.
Thank you.
Center.
Thank you.
With that, I think you wanted to spend a little bit of time talking more about the Minuteman Senior Service.
Right. There is an agency within our area. It's called Minuteman Senior Services. That's an agency. It's a nonprofit. It's run by grants and also money by the state. They cover a variety of services. I know you've probably gotten information about them on their yearly update for the fiscal year 2009. But they cover everything from, say, for example, during this process, if I find, say, for example, fuel assistance, which I have, that people should be possibly looking some assistance in their home, whether it be for personal care, which is supervision for bathing, whether to help with grocery shopping, light housekeeping, and even laundry. I in turn call Minuteman Senior Services and make a referral. You have to be need eligible and also financially eligible. It's a sliding fee program, which is, of course, it could be anywhere from $15 a month up to $125 a month for any amount of service that they'll be receiving. Also includes Lifeline if someone needs Lifeline in their home. That includes the installation and a monthly fee. So it is quite a program. Right now, due to with the state issue, there is, and funds, as we all know, there is a bit of a waiting list. But I always tell people, don't let that stop you. At least get on the waiting list, and we can try to see other services that can help out. An idea of some of the services they do provide, like I said, is this case management, someone that oversees all the services that are coming in the home. There's also, like I said, with our laundry service, I was told that I want that laundry service. They just have to put a bag out by their side door. This company comes, takes the laundry, brings it back within 24 to 48 hours, folded, and absolutely fine. But the other thing that's important they are part of the Home Delivered Meals program. We work with them. They also do nursing home screenings. They have a nursing home department. They do the SHINE, and right now I'm blanking out what SHINE stands for, which is the let's see, that stands for, but it's for the insurance programs. To explain, it's volunteer-based. They're extremely, extremely important. Actually, we have two that come to our center. They explain all about Medicare and the supplemental insurance, whether it be Tufts, Harvard Pilgrim and Health, Fallon. There's quite a few to pick from, but they have to make sure they pick the correct one, especially due to prescriptions and things. So these people help advise them. Also, if someone needs to apply for Medicaid, that's a really hard undertaking. That application is very intense. So people helping them out with that also. So they're a great, great resource. I work very, very closely with them. Another department that they do have is protective service. So everyone does not like to talk about that, financial or like abuse, physical abuse. But they are the key people that if we have an issue here in town, the police and fire and myself make a referral to Minuteman Senior Services. That's where it directly goes to. So they cover quite an array of service. I know you probably have a question. If you do look at the fiscal year, their service report is transportation. And you're probably thinking, why are some people going for transportation? We have our own transportation service. Just to clarify that, out of the 13-mile, we cover a 13-mile radius, which of course does not include Boston, which I don't think we could ever really do Boston. And those are the types of patients for people that do have special, whether it be radiology or something like that, needing to get to Boston specifically, that we cannot provide. And I have to say, Minuteman has been very supportive to those clients. So that's the type of transportation that you're seeing here. The other one I forgot to mention too is money management. Phenomenal program. You do not, for money management, you do not have to be that income eligible piece to be a state home care elder. We can give them a call. What it is they have a volunteer, it's all volunteer based, but accountants, retired accountants, people that work in the banks, to help people make sure they get out their bills in a timely manner. If someone has a bit of dementia and they have no family in the area, to make sure that all the finances are taken care of. And there are, right now it's reporting only 2, but we have made quite a few referrals to them. So.
Yeah, there's obviously an array of services that Minuteman provides and that you refer to them. So again, I just want to make sure that we, bottom line, if for folks who might be watching, if they have the need for any kind of assistance whatsoever, to call your office, and you've got these other resources available to refer the folks to if you don't directly handle that program.
And I don't want people to think that, because we say income-based, I mean, there are some private agencies that if they find that they're not eligible for this, we also make referrals to other agencies. We try to very much stay attuned to companies that are out there for home care, for homemaking, also for assisted living, for nursing homes that are in the area, to be able to make sure that people are getting the right information.
Right. Questions or comments on the Minuteman service?
Yeah, I could just have worked with Terry and Shine and the Minutemen for the past 4+ years, and they all do wonderful work, and they're all so dedicated, and the care that they do take, and to make sure the job gets done right. So, once again, another good project there, good program.
Yeah, and these Shine people also have been doing home visits. A lot of people in need right now. I think also some people that are retiring that weren't planning on retiring, and then all of a sudden having to realize that their insurance is not being covered. A lot of people, and you notice I'm using the word a lot, I'm not just like throwing that word. There has been quite a few people affected by this economy, and these people have really come to really help them out as to which way to go.
And you can tell just by the big parts of this here, the Meals on Wheels and the care management, the home care services, help out a lot of people in town, a lot of residents.
Anything else from the board? Again, thank you both for the work and for the information, and wish you well in the upcoming year.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. we could resume with communications.
Mr. Chairman, you have a notice from the Massachusetts Department of Transportation and the Massachusetts Executive Office of Housing and Economic Development regarding an invitation to join in a public workshop regarding the Route 93 Tri-Town Interchange project. That will be held on Thursday, November 12th, from 4 to 8 p.m. At the Andover Town House Function Hall, which is located on 20 Main Street in Andover. The project, as you know, will add a new interchange between interchanges 41 and 42, and also add a lane in each direction on Route 93 between interchange 41 and Interstate 495. So the project, as proposed, will attempt to reduce congestion, improve safety, support the community's goals for sustainable development and job creation, minimize environmental impacts, and support the vision of a proposed life sciences and high technology corridor. The purpose of the workshop is to present updated information as well as to gather public input. There will not be any formal presentation, so the public is encouraged to attend at any time that's convenient for them between 4 p.m. and 8 p.m. The board has a letter from Jane Lyman of Comcast, again providing an update regarding their services as they are charged to do, and they're informing the board of an upcoming change to the channel lineup effective December 1st. WWDP, which is Shop NBC on the basic service channel 72, will be replaced by WWDP-DT on channel 72. All of this information will go directly to any of the subscribers. Mr. Chairman, the board is being asked to consider the meeting schedule for both December and January. I can tell you that we have a meeting scheduled for December 14th, and the following meeting, if the board chooses to have it in December, would be December 28th. In addition, meetings are normally scheduled in January for the 11th and 25th. I am also requesting, as you know, Mr. Chairman, that the board consider allowing a separate meeting for the budget, as we have done in the past few years, based on the fact that we don't get information until late in January. And the board has enabled us over the past few years to still meet the requirements of the charter in terms of its presentation of the budget by having that meeting on the first Monday in February. This year would be February 1st. Last year, we met twice in December. The second meeting, however, you may recall, was primarily for the hearing that was held on the application of the B&B Liquors to transfer to the Mobile on the Run. Otherwise, we had been just meeting the once in December. Obviously, it's clearly up to the board. It's very important to meet on December 14th because that's the date that we will do all of the renewals. The board will do the renewals. Last year in January, I believe, and I'd ask Beverly to correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe we just had the one meeting in January, that being the second Monday. And then in February, we actually had 3 meetings based upon the budget meeting and then the 2 regularly scheduled February meetings.
Well, why don't we start, actually start with February. It would be my intention to call a meeting for the first Monday in February, being February 1st, and then also have our 2 regularly scheduled meetings. So I guess first off, does anybody have an objection to that, having the 3 meetings in February? Okay. If we have no problems with that, then let's go back to our December meeting schedule. The 14th is when we typically consider all the renewals for all of the licenses and permits that the board issues, right?
Yes.
So assuming that everything comes together for that meeting, there's seldom a whole lot of business that's conducted between Christmas and New Year's. So my thinking would be, let's plan on meeting on the 14th. Let's not plan on having a meeting the 28th, but as the board always is willing to do, if business comes up that needs our attention, then we can call a meeting. Does that make sense to everybody here?
How much time typically is needed in order to schedule, if the kind of work you're suggesting does come up and we needed to get together on the 28th, how much time does the public need, how much time do we need, et cetera?
The open meeting was 48 hours, which, if I remember right, includes Saturday, not Sunday? Does that sound right, Mike, if I remember right?
I think you're correct.
I think that's the case, but generally speaking, 2 days.
Then, yeah, certainly I have no objection to that, as long as the public we had enough time to incorporate a meeting if something did come up, and it sounds like we'd have ample time, ample notice.
Right, and some of the business that might come to our attention, if it required any kind of a public hearing, the applicant would have to be, submitting something well in advance of that in order to be able to publish, so that kind of thing would have plenty of heads up. So hearing no objections, then that'll be the game plan. January. So our regularly scheduled meeting, just the 09 calendar, Mike.
Yes.
Help me out with the
January would be
Monday dates.
January 11th and January 25th.
That makes sense to everybody? Regular meeting schedule? Okay.
We're going to do both meetings in January?
Yes.
Okay.
Will that be a separate one for the budget? Or will it be a,
That's the February one.
That's the
that'd be
third
the
one.
February one? Okay.
Right. Okay, unless things change, that'll be the,
By way of review, just so that we have it, Mr. Chairman, December 14th, regular meeting. December 28th, there will be no meeting unless necessary, to be determined by the chairman. January 11th and January 25th, regular meeting dates, regular meetings, and then February 1st for the budget, and then February 8th and 22nd, the regular meetings.
right.
There's no holidays in January at any of those dates?
Yes, there is, oh, no, one of those dates. There's a
None of those Mondays.
holiday in between. Martin Luther King Day holiday would be the 15th, I believe.
Thank you.
Okay.
I'm sorry, why am I saying the 15th?
I think it'd be the Monday, the 19th.
It would be the 18th.
18th.
January
The
18th.
18th.
Monday,
Okay.
January 18th.
Okay, our next item is board to consider appointing a representative to the Junction Route 93 Development Area Task Force. As it stands now, Mr. Lepore is the board's designee, and it's my understanding that some scheduling conflicts have come up, and that that's something that you're looking to see if anybody else on the board is interested in assuming that responsibility. Anybody from the board interested in doing that, or?
Well, yeah, I had participated in one of the open sessions held in this room about a month ago, and I've had some communications with some of the people on that team. I find the matter fascinating. I also find it mission critical to the future of the complexion of what Wilmington will be into the near and long-term future. And I would be honored if Wilmington saw fit to have me represent them on that commission, and I'd be honored if you guys put your faith in me as well.
Anybody?
You need a motion?
I make
Sure.
the motion that we appoint Mike Shampoo to take that position on the 93 task force.
Okay, made and seconded. Anything further? All in favor? It's unanimous.
Thank you.
Thank you. Public comments? Hearing none. New business. Along the lines, if I could jump in, of the matter that we just discussed, I've, as the board knows, met periodically over the course of the last year or so with members from other towns, members of the Board of Selectmen from other towns, namely Andover, North Andover, North Reading, and Reading, and met informally last year to discuss some, common interests. Those meetings seem to be, the people are planning those meetings again going forward. It's been suggested that we have a backup if I'm not available based on any, given meeting. So certainly if any member, this isn't anything that requires a vote, it's very informal discussion. So if anybody is interested in finding out more about what they do, please contact me. I'll give you some more information, and if you're interested, I'll pass along your name as somebody who would be able to meet on occasion when I'm not available. Any other new business or committee reports?
I'd just like to mention the senior center had a talent show yesterday at the high school. And
Mention it
the high
before
school-
anybody else does, you
with the
mean?
high school kids, and it was well-attended, and it goes to their scholarship fund, so just want to give a shout-out to them again. It was a good job. And also, obviously, remind everybody, Wednesday's Veterans Day on the town common at 11 o'clock.
So you participated in that.
Veterans Day, yes.
I've heard the reviews, I won't embarrass you. Anybody else, new business committee reports?
I'd like to draw some attention to something else, if I may. I hope I don't embarrass him by doing so, but if he wasn't in this room right now, I would raise it to everyone's attention in Wilmington. Recently, an organization that's dear to Wilmington, that I feel so lucky that is in Wilmington or has its headquarters in Wilmington, Local Heroes, celebrated its 5-year anniversary in existence. And while I guess it's somewhat regrettable that we have heroes that we need to send packages to, it's an amazing and cherished thing that we have in town, to have that group of volunteers doing what they do. And I think they're approaching 10,000 packages over the course of 5 years. I know Mr. Somaglia would never pat himself on the back, so I wanted to do it publicly and personally and say thank you for what you do and for what Local Heroes does, and congratulations and kudos, and please keep it up. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Anything else? All right, we do have, I'm sorry, all set? Okay, we do have an executive session on the agenda for the purpose of discussing collective bargainings. I'd ask for a motion to that effect to adjourn to executive session. Oh, I'm sorry, important dates. The one-page agenda caught me. Thank you, appreciate it. Did I do that twice? I'm going to have to focus better next time. Thank you, thank you. If we could, do important dates.
Yes, we're continuing with the curbside collection of yard waste now through December 4th. Residents are urged to put their leaves into the biodegradable bags or into barrels that are visible to the trash collector on the day of their regular trash pickup day, now through December 4th. November 11th, as the Selectman Somaglia has reminded everybody, is the Veterans Day ceremony at 11 o'clock at Town Common, and we hope that there will be a large crowd, as there usually is, to join in honoring our veterans. The next day, on November 12th, there's brush drop-off at Old Main Street from 8 a.m. to 2 p.m., the recycling center there. Also on that day, a reminder that the I-93 Tri-Town Interchange Project will hold their public workshop at the Andover Townhouse Function Hall, 20 Main Street. You can drop in anytime between 4 p.m. and 8 p.m. Again, brush drop-off days also are on November 14th, November 18th, and November 21st. On November 18th is the last day to register to vote for the special state primary election for the U.S. Senate. Again, this is the primary. Town clerk's office will be open until 8 p.m. on that day, and passport services will be available. The Senior Citizen Holiday Craft Fair will be held at the Bazell Senior Center on November 21st. It's a Saturday from 9 to 2. And again, the board's next meeting on November 23rd will include the hearing on the discussion of local property tax policy with reference to classification for fiscal year 2010. That's scheduled for 7:15 PM here in room 9 during the board's regular meeting.
Okay, at that, do we have a motion to adjourn to executive session for the purpose of discussing collective bargaining, not to return to open session?
So moved.
Second.
Made and seconded. Anything further? And we'll have a roll call vote starting down here.
Yes.
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 And yes, it's unanimous.